For my trip to the market observation, I'm focusing on Sam's Club and also Albertsons because I went to both of them within the same day. But I happened to stop by the farmer's market that day for my regular shop, so I included some pictures and observations from that as well. The first thing I noticed at Sam's Club was before I even entered the store, and it was the shopping carts when I walked in, which were significantly larger than either a bag I would take to a farmer's market or than a cart that you use at the regular grocery store. And I thought about the plate size information in mindless eating and how if the plate is larger, you're inclined to take more. With Sam's Club, it makes sense because it's a store that focuses on bulk buying. So it would make sense that the cart is bigger, but it also made me think that you might be more inclined to take more than what's there. Other observations about Sam's Club. I thought it was going to be a pretty busy time. It was a Sunday afternoon, but I got in and it was fairly empty. And the thing that really struck out to me was that the store seemed really sterile and impersonal. There was no music playing. There weren't a lot of signs telling you where to go, other than big blue signs at the top of the wall saying bakery section, meat section. And other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of invitation or direction. It seemed very much a promotion of walk and grab what you need. The aisles were wide, so it was easy to move your carts. There were samples for you to try, so you would do more impulse buying where you would sample something and then choose to take it. The marketing on the box even actually says to take and bake. You can just take it and have it with you, and it's easy and convenient. And in terms of the bulk buying, most of the food or a lot of the food was individually packaged and wrapped. So, in addition to just easily grabbing them and taking them from the store, once you have it at home, it's food that seems easier to consume. The way the produce was displayed in the store seemed consistent with most all of the other products in that it was in bulk, it was packaged in a way that was really convenient, and in a way that didn't particularly highlight that it was fresh. So it would have plastic coating or some kind of packaging around individual pieces of food. Um, it would be in bulk bags and stackable containers or at a stage of ripeness where it could endure being handled and packaged and moved around a little bit more. There wasn't a lot of signage indicating specials of any kind, but all of the signs did seem temporary and they did all indicate pretty low prices. And rather than trying to highlight that, it was much more that that's the name of the game of the store, that the prices are low, that the product is changing all the time, and so whatever you get when you're getting it there, you are likely to be getting the best deal. Um, and there wasn't permanent signage indicating what was located in what section of the store because it seemed like that changed based on what product was available at the right price and time. The only piece of actual marketing that really stood out was in the section of the store that had food ready to eat right then. If you were hungry and you wanted to get a hot dog or an ice cream sundae, that was the most predominant signage that was enticing and colorful. The Albertsons, however, was going for enticing right at the very beginning. When you first entered the store, you were greeted by a coffee stand where you could get your coffee. There were cookies for sale right at the very beginning. There was an aroma when you first entered the store. It was busy, it was colorful, it was really warm and welcoming right when you came in. Beyond the coffee stand, there's a pretty clear direction that the store expects you to walk. And so you go in that way and you pass by a series of cold cases that have all grab and go, ready to bake items. So they're kind of homemade, kind of prepared for you. But you can grab the items and essentially either just heat them up and serve them or open the container and serve it right after that. Some of the time it was product specific and some of the time it was the store itself, but there were really clear messages coming through on the products and on the store labeling. So some of it was at the beginning, the items that said heat and serve, take and bake, those kinds of items. And then it was a lot of fresh value, locally grown, fresh, direct to you, a lot of items that had really strong messages that dinner is solved. And it was interesting because while there was a lot of labeling and messaging, it didn't always actually say what the food was that was being messaged. So some of the time it did. In the chicken value meal, it gave a list, but other than that, it just said dinner creations, easy to make meal, fresh and local, great value. Things are at its peak, but it didn't necessarily say what the food item was or where the food item came from, or what the ingredients were in it or how you would cook it. It was just very much of getting the notion and the concept of what these purchases would would mean. That being said, there was a pretty big focus on the nutritional value of foods. So there was a implication of good nutrition that kind of hovered all around the store. There were big signs everywhere. And then in the actual produce department, there were smaller signs that were much more specific in the actual produce aisle. So there was a general one that talked about nutrition. And then for each of the individual produce items, it would have a smaller sign on it that said what vitamins were in that food. This is a good source of vitamin A. This is a good source of vitamin C. Green onions are really good for you for this reason. And so it wasn't necessarily a brand that they were pushing, or it wasn't a brand they were pushing, but it was a food item in relation to general nutrition, which in the broad scheme of things, the store seemed to promote. And that was going for produce and then also for grains and for protein and sodium and fats and sugars and things like that. There were similar store or signs elsewhere in the store that then started to get more product specific and started to match certain things, but it still seemed like the store was putting a pretty big focus on nutrition. Another kind of signage that really jumped out to me had to do with brands that were working together for certain causes. So the breast cancer awareness campaign was everywhere, and it was on all different products. It was on the food. It was really targeting shopping for a cause and indicating all of these different brands that were part of the same cause. And the causes that seemed most predominant in the store were the breast cancer cause and then education, growing your local learning. And they even had signs that showed all of the brands that if you supported all of these brands or if you purchased all of these products, then you would be buying or you would be showing that you support these causes through your purchase. By buying sugary cookie cereals, you are supporting your child's education system. And then I wanted to end with some other pictures that I had from the farmers market that I went to that day, because it ended up being pretty striking to go to these three different food locations all in one day. And some of the things that I was expecting to find at the grocery stores, I found at the farmers market. I think I was expecting to see a lot of families in the grocery stores and a lot of parents shopping with their kids. And in both of the stores, they were pretty empty. There weren't a lot of families, there weren't a lot of people. And at the farmers market, there were people everywhere. There were kids shopping. They were tasting things. They were asking their parents if they could buy certain things. And there wasn't a whole lot of signage out, but there was a lot of work to show the actual items and the food products, and to display them, to highlight what they had available. So there were samples like there were in the other stores, but the items themselves were really highlighted and on display and at different levels, and they were at eye level and kid level, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And there was also a wide variety. There weren't a whole lot of signs that said what the nutritional value was of the food, like there were in Albertsons. But there definitely was a variety, and there were signs that indicated where everything was grown and what the varietals were. And the other thing that was going on at the farmers market was there was a lot of music. And I don't know that the music is coordinated by the market management, like the music in a store would be coordinated by the store itself, but it no doubt added to the atmosphere and the space